Okay, great. I'm now going to call to order the June 22nd, 2021 regular town board meeting. The clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Delarada.
Present.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Here.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Here.
Councilman McPartlin.
Here.
Supervisor Syed.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We are first, before we move on to approval of the minutes, going to do the presentation of our ceremonial resolutions. We're going to begin with the first ceremonial resolution, which is a presentation by Councilwoman McGraw to the Niskuna senior class officers.
Welcome. Welcome, everyone.
Okay. Hi, guys. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here. As you just heard, these are the senior class officers for the Niskuna class of 2021. Obviously, this was an extraordinary year. There were a lot of things that you did that you probably were not planning on having to do due to COVID. There were a lot of things asked of you, and you took on a lot of extra responsibility on behalf of your classmates. So the parents group and the administration of the school had asked if we could just highlight some of those things for everybody to hear, because it really was remarkable everything that you did this year, and we are all very grateful. So some of it is, just as I said, it was a very unusual year. Restrictions imposed on them by COVID. And the class officers of the class of 21 took charge and created a memorable senior experience for their classmates. The senior class officers, when disappointed with the plan for a two-part graduation ceremony that consisted of students arriving at school at a designed time, walking across the stage to receive their diplomas, called for a steering committee made up of students, administration, and parents to address the situation, resulting in more traditional in-person graduation to take place tomorrow at the Times Union Center. And when the senior gala could not be hosted because of state regulations, the class officers worked with the senior steering committee to create a senior celebration that allowed the class to have formal events despite criticism from adults in the community. And senior class officers worked for the administration on securing approval from both Schenectady and Albany County health departments for this event, which anybody who's ever done that knows how much work it is. So very good job. The senior class officers understood they were state guidelines, and they were working to reach out to elected officials to make sure that their voices were heard and that they could work within those guidelines. Because of the senior class officers, the class of 2021 received t-shirts for the class, and they're having a formal senior celebration and an in-person graduation, a senior movie night at the Malta Drive-In, and a graduation parade on Saturday, which I cannot wait for. And whereas the town of Niskuna now wishes to recognize each of the senior class officers of the class of 2021 for their leadership, strong work ethic, and ability to face adversity to benefit all their classmates. So on this day of the 22nd of June, 2021, in recognition of the senior class officers of the class of 2021 and their efforts to make the class of 2021 senior year a memorable one, despite restrictions due to COVID-19 and a global pandemic, this town board hereby recognizes Inanna Jacob, Carly Dell, Abby Yakmova, Joshua Wang, Jenna Gresson, and Ileana Klein, the senior officers of the class of 2021. Do you have anything you'd like to say? We would be honored.
Hi, everyone. I guess all of us would just want to
as much as we're being recognized, there were so many people that supported us throughout this, like the parents and administration and our advisors. They all kind of supported us through this. And I know it's a cheesy thing to say, but we really couldn't have done it without their help. And we got really lucky with the people that all of us got to work with. And it definitely was not a solo project to get all this together. And we're grateful that it all came together.
Well, thank you very much. We're thrilled to have you here. How about you take one and pass it down? And if there's any more pictures anyone would like?
There they are.
North. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I think one of your colleagues can see.
Congratulations to all of you. And next, we have the presentation of the resolution recognizing the Niskayuna Mohawk Composite Mountain Bike Team, which will also be made and presented by Councilwoman McGraw.
Okay. How are you, sir? Okay. Okay, this is some crew, and this is only a small part of who is actually part of this team. And I'm just thrilled for all of you to be here tonight and for the community at large to see and hear about all your accomplishments. So I will read your resolution. I won't read all your names if you don't mind, but we do have a resolution for everyone. So for all of you to display. So be it enacted by the town board of the town of Niskayuna as follows, that the New York State Interscholastic Cycling Association was organized in 2013 to provide competitive mountain biking programs for students in grades 6 through 12. And whereas there are over 30 teams in the New York League with over 650 racers competing, and whereas the Niskayuna Mohawk Composite Mountain Bike Team practices year-round with indoor sessions and trainings starting in January, and this year the Niskayuna Mohawk Mountain Bike Team Composite Team won all 4 races as well as the New York State Championship. And whereas the Niskayuna Composite Team also had individual state championships in several of the high school divisions, including Jacob Gilson for the boys varsity team, Maya Healy for the junior varsity girls division, Olivia Guzzo for the sophomore girls division, Addison Rizzi who placed second in the freshman girls division. And whereas since 2013, the Niskayuna Composite Team has been consistently placing in the top 3 in all the teams in New York State in multiple individual state championships in their respective divisions. And whereas the town of Niskayuna now wishes to recognize and honor the Niskayuna Mohawk Composite Team, including athletes and their coaches, for their hard work and dedication and skills that landed the Niskayuna Composite Team with the NICA New York State Championships in Windham Mountain this year. Therefore, be it recognized on the 22nd day of June, 2021, in recognition of a huge accomplishment of winning the NICA New York State Championship, this town board honors the Niskayuna Mountain Bike Composite Team, including their coaches and athletes, for their hard work, athleticism, dedication. And it's comprised of 70 individuals. So I will pass on that, but I want to thank all of you. I want to congratulate all of you. And would one of the coaches like to say something or bang a gong?
We do reserve the gong for very special moments.
Okay.
So if we can get you and the supervisor to each give us a ring.
I'd be honored. I'd be honored, Mr. Gilson.
Surprise everybody
Okay.
with that.
Okay. This is a first.
So whenever a student athlete makes the podium,
Yes?
they get the gong.
Okay.
It's a good gong.
Don't be shy about it. Very nice. Teenagers hit a lot harder.
Would anyone like to say anything? Okay. Thank you very much for being here. If folks want to take pictures, I will. You did enough of that already? Okay, you've got plenty.
Kids that
What about Bob?
Thank you.
we missed, we give you the more accurate.
Yes,
list.
of course. Oh, don't be silly.
All
Of
right,
course.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you very much. And I just had one more resolution. The young ladies who had a remarkable achievement last weekend are not here. They're actually already in California, moving on to their next competition. But I had a third ceremonial resolution recognizing 2 Niskayuna residents for competing in the U.S. Rowing 2021 Youth National Regatta. And that was Jordan Zenner and Heather Schmidt. They're both 17-year-old high school students from Niskayuna, and they finished second in the nation in their event. And they have moved on, and they're now in a program in California, so they weren't able to be here tonight, but I just wanted to acknowledge them as well. So thank you.
Okay. We're now going to move on to approval of the minutes. First, we have the minutes of the May 25th, 2021 regular town board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second?
Thank you. Are there any changes to these minutes? Okay, with no changes, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And those minutes are approved. Next, we have the minutes of the June 8th, 2021 special town board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Are there any changes to those minutes? Okay, there being no changes, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? And those minutes are approved. Next, we're going to move on to privilege of the floor. So privilege of the floor.
Madam
is-
Supervisor, I have a
Yes.
point of order.
Yes.
I have an announcement to make.
Sure.
I am resigning my position as a Niskayuna Town Board member effective July 1st, 2021. My husband Grant, who is here with me tonight, and I are moving to the Washington, D.C. area. Grant was appointed a judge on the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims in September of 2020. The court is located in Washington, D.C. During the pandemic, he's been working entirely remotely from Niskayuna, but expects that work in the court facilities in Washington, D.C. will resume this fall. The pandemic has had a tremendous impact on our decision to move. We are acutely aware of the precious nature of time these days. The many months of long hours spent working from home at the same time have made living apart unthinkable. We are also looking forward to having an everyday presence in the lives of our grandchildren who live in the DC area. I'm resigning now to ensure that Niskayuna voters can choose my successor. Pursuant to New York State town law, the remaining town board members will select someone to serve in my place through December 31st of this year.
Because the vacancy is occurring more than 3 months away from the next general election, New York State Public Officers Law requires that the vacancy be filled in this November's election. If need be, I can remain beyond July 1st as long as it does not interfere with the voters' ability to select my successor. Whoever is elected this November will complete the remaining 2 years of my term, which ends December 31st, 2023. I hope that the residents will elect someone who will be a strong, thoughtful, and independent voice, as I have worked very hard to be. As a first-generation Cuban American who spoke only Spanish until I started school, I urge other diverse voices to speak out, pursue public office, and help take our town to a brighter tomorrow for all. I'm very proud to have spearheaded the creation of the Town Task Force on Racial Equity and Justice, drafted legislation creating student-only positions on various town committees, pushed for bylaws which created accountability and transparency in the operation of the town's legislative committees, worked with many young, vibrant activists to support events at Town Hall, and participated in scores of meetings of the town board, missing only one, and town committees during my tenure. I'm also very proud that during the height of the pandemic in 2020, I worked to make sure Niskayuna was able to offer a variety of summer camps and also assure that all of our youth sports organizations were back on the fields, the courts, and the pitch with extensive COVID protocols in place. Not many municipalities were able to do that last summer, and I'm really proud of that. It's been a great honor to serve the residents of Niskayuna over my many years of elected office on both the Niskayuna School Board and the Niskayuna Town Board, and I will miss the good people of Niskayuna. Thank you, Madam Supervisor.
Thank you. May I be the first one to say that you will be missed and you will leave very big shoes to fill. So with that, we're going to move on to privilege of the floor.
I would like to thank the councilwoman as well. I did not know you were going to say that. So I'm a little taken aback, though. When I saw Grant walk in, I knew something was up. Rosemary, thank you for your service. And you just scratched the surface of the many things that you had accomplished while you were here. Your impact was great. Thank you for all you've done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, Rosemary, I'm also shocked, not aware that this was going to be happening. And filling your shoes will be very difficult. You've been a very valued member of this board in the short time that you've been here, and you will be truly missed. And I understand why you're making the decisions you are making and wish you well in those decisions.
Thank you for your service, Ms. Perez-Jaquith. You've done an admirable job, and they are big shoes to fill. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay. We're now going to move on to privilege of the floor. So privilege of the floor is now open. If you would like to speak, you can approach the dais, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Michael Casella, 3477 Rosendale Road. I've been here a number of times. I'm sure I'm not a stranger here. I appreciate the time. The first issue that I wanted to bring to light, and we had a nice chat with Ms. McGraw earlier, I gave some pictures to her. I live directly in front of the Lions Park. And I have a very nice view of the train station and the river and all the people that enjoy that park and the bench. And I've been there 30 years. And in 30 years, that little area has grown because of the sediment that comes from the river and the sediment that comes down from Route 7. It's kind of a big area now. It's like a peninsula. And unfortunately, people are taking advantage of that. They're parking their trucks and cars down there while they're fishing or hiking or whatever they're doing, where in fact there shouldn't be any parking down there at all. And I brought this to the board's attention 2 years ago, you may recall, and nothing's been done. And I understand we've had COVID and all this other stuff, but anyway, it's a very inexpensive fix to put some signs up preventing parking or even some big rocks So people can come down, unload their stuff, and then pull their car into the parking lot where they belong. If anybody's healthy enough to go fishing or hiking or whatever, they can walk 150 feet from the parking lot down to where they're dropping off their canoe or their kayak or whatever. So that's the first thing I wanted to bring up. The second thing is I've been here a number of times voicing my concern about speeding, reckless driving, not just on Rosendale Road where I live, but throughout the whole town, but particularly and I wanted to I did thank the supervisor about a year or so ago. They did put up a little sign that was electronic that would tell you your speed. If you're speeding, it would flash, slow down, etc. So I appreciate, and then they also put a sign up at the corner of Rosendale Road and Route 7 before you took a right onto Rosendale saying it's a 6-ton weight limit. Well, and I thank you for that. The sign that gives you the digital speed is gone. I don't know where it went. I don't know why it left, but it's gone, and it would be nice if it came back. Speeding and big trucks are still a problem there. Maybe not quite as bad as it was, but there's still an issue. My house is 19 feet from the road. So be it. Back when the house was built in 1850, that was very stylish to have your horse and buggy pull up right in front of your house. Anyway, I understand that enforcement is an issue. And that's the next situation is I'm very, very discouraged at the way Police Chief Wall was run out on a rail, basically. She had no cooperation from this board. The morale of the police department is at all-time low. The staffing is at all-time low. And if we go back to 1985, the staffing, there was a study done recommending almost doubling the police department at that time, which right now, we're lower now than we were in 85 as far as staffing numbers go. Crime is up, traffic issues are up, and I'm sure tax revenues are up because the town has grown greatly. So I don't know how there's a problem with staffing. Why can't we hire more people? We lost 2 people this year because of morale, 2 good people. And when I went to the walkout for Chief Wall, I was really disappointed to see faces that weren't there. And you know who you are. That woman had 36 years of dedicated service. Whether you like her or not, she had a great career. And not showing up to her ceremony is a slap in the face to her and everybody in that department. And that's what morale is about. As a retired public servant, I was a firefighter. You have to have morale. Without morale, you have no structure. Without structure, you have no accomplishments. And that's basically where we are. All right?
Mr. Casella, I agree with you.
Well,
Agree
thank
with
you, and I certainly, as I'm addressing you, I wish you well, and thank you for your service. So I really call upon the town board to think about what I said, and I hope that we can work together. If I'm available at any time for comments, questions, whatever. You know how to find me. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Janet O'Farrell. I live on Clifton Park Road in Old Niskuna. And I will say, Rosemary, I've never met you before, but my son is an assistant U.S. attorney who worked for your husband, and I'm very sad that both of you are leaving Niskuna. I didn't know the previous gentleman was speaking, but that is my concern also. Many of my neighbors and I are concerned with the safety and effectiveness of our police department and the safety of our town. I've lived in Niskuna since 1978, and I have never, ever before been embarrassed or worried about how it appears that our police department is being dealt with. It certainly seems like an increase in officers and staff is needed. How can a department be safe and effective when they're stretched too thin and morale is down? It's certainly a difficult time to be a police officer. I have witnessed several incidents in my own block where the police have come and had to deal with very uncomfortable situations, and they have dealt with them in a most efficient and courteous manner. I don't believe I'm the only resident who would be willing to pay more taxes in order for our police department to be fully staffed safe, and effective for our town. I would hope that our town board, the Public Safety Committee, our police reform task force, wherever the authority lies, would recommend addressing the needs of the police department, whether it's their retirement issues, their staffing needs, their morale, or whatever. I don't believe we can thank our police department enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Cancio. My family's lived in Niskayuna approximately 80 years at 1276 Hillside Avenue, which is conveniently located across from the Army Reserve. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I have several thoughts. I rechanged my order, so I may take a second to rethink things. Ms. Syed, several months ago, you wanted to start a virtual town meeting, as far as my knowledge is, and I'm wondering how that is proceeding. Are we getting a town virtual meeting group that will help solve some of the issues in the town?
Can you give me some more specifics on the virtual meeting? Are you speaking in regards to town board meetings and the
Yes.
like?
Yes, town board meetings, you, I believe, in my mind, you tried to start a virtual town meeting about 8 months ago.
Yes, sir. We have been meeting virtually for the duration of the COVID pandemic, and we just now began meeting in person again about a month ago.
Okay, my next question would be then, how available is what people have said? Because at a town meeting, everyone can hear what you're saying and actually make their own decisions. But when you go virtual, it's usually only between two people, and it is nice to know what kind of discussions and what topics were brought up. So is there a way to get these records or a way to review all this, these items, so there's not repetition coming up all the time to speak about things?
Yes, all of these meetings can be found on our YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you type in Town of Niskayuna, every single one of our meetings, including the virtual meetings, which we were able to hold via Google Meet, so everybody was able to participate on those, you can find all of those there.
Okay, that's wonderful. You and I have had a meeting approximately 2 years ago. The meeting consisted of a report I submitted to you that came back from 2009. It was about the reconstruction of Hillside Avenue. Mr. Smith was there, several other people were there. The paperwork that I presented to you and the way I read it, it seems that there was no money at that time to do any road reconstruction. In my mind, the whole theory about how it was done is amazing. I believe that some of the people in the middle of the block wanted to buy the property that was below grade. So somehow it was decided that the road grade should go up approximately 2 feet, in which it did, and which caused about 6 other houses to now be below grade, which I find to be very much against town regulations. You can't be dumping runoff water from one property onto another property. And you may want to get back to me on that. I don't have any problem with that right now. I've also submitted about 5 pictures. I don't know what order they're in now. The order that I wanted you to look at them is, it's a picture of the Niskayuna Rec area, which is off of Banker Avenue, off of Hillside. And as you're there looking, you can see the bus garage as you look out towards the east approximately. What my concern is, several items were placed there. That is a playground area, a swimming area, a rec area. There is now a window glass there with a broken pot and it is not fastened to anything on a bench. There is also a lattice hanging from an upper stairwell, tied on with something less than electrical cord that you would use for a window. I find that very dangerous. A child could climb up on there and have all that fall on them. There's also a door leaning there with a hat on it, which brings me the thought of a kid walking behind it and tipping the door over on another child. I don't know who decided those items should be there. The fire department was there less than a month ago. One of the employees there is the wife of the building inspector. And I just can't imagine how those things got put there without thinking about them. I can vaguely think that somebody thinks they're decorations, but I personally think they're garbage and better be removed because I consider them extremely dangerous to children. My other concern that I just came across today is I'm not exactly sure, but I heard that our wonderful senior center is feeding approximately 80 people. They are getting the food from Gershon's Meal Center. I think it's approximately $5. I'm not entirely sure that that is the right number, but it was really nice when Ann worked that kitchen. We have a wonderful kitchen there. It has a great facility. And unfortunately, food is being bought at an outside vendor and being brought in. I don't ever remember, I've been going there for about 6 years, but I don't ever remember where Ann's menu was ever presented to the town so that people right in the town here could order stuff and have it delivered from the senior center. There is a bus facility that people can take from various areas in Niskayuna and go to this senior center. It seems like we greatly under-sponsored the wonderful kitchen and kitchen help that we had there. And now the meals are being purchased.
Sir, I can speak to that issue. So that was, we took a look, a very comprehensive review of the senior center lunches, and the participants were surveyed, et cetera. And they actually opted for, we did a lot of different tastings of different options, and they opted for the Gershon's Choice. It actually saves the town money in terms of staffing and also the cost of meals. And also during the COVID pandemic, it really helped the seniors to have the boxed lunches. It upped participation. And so we had not only a dining in feature, but also a drive up feature. And it really helped a lot of seniors. Of course, the staff, which is a really dedicated staff, they did a lot to maintain contact with all our seniors during COVID, is continually, reviewing things, including this meal program, which will be reviewed. And again, we're always trying to do best by our citizens and our taxpayers. So it was in that vein. So I was involved in that, so I could speak to that issue. And I'd be happy to talk more about it if you would like to.
Okay, but I appreciate your answer. Is there any numbers of how many people are really being fed?
So I usually report at my committee meetings, which are the first Wednesday of every month. Our senior center director is Linda O'Brien, and I can give you her email. They track the numbers of lunches. And so folks come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they can order. It's a pre-order. So every week it's different. It just depends on, and we put out information via web so folks can order, and we can have them pre-ordered and there and ready. So it's fluctuated. I know there was a tremendous uptick during the pandemic, and it was a good way for our seniors to sort of maintain some contact. We were also, we had a driver who was delivering these meals to our shut-ins also, which was really nice. So I can get you those numbers, or at least get you in touch with Linda O'Brien, who's the head of the senior center program, and Lori Peretti is also here, is responsible. So we can get you that if you're interested. But we do usually report on those Highway, Parks and Recreation Committee meetings every Wednesday. And those also, as the supervisor said, those are available on the web for your viewing.
Okay, my understanding is, like you said, they're only open 2 days a week. I believe the people there are part-time. And that brings up a whole nother point of mine. I'm very interested in the numbers of people that were on unemployment during COVID. It seemed like everybody in this town that works for the town were essential people. And I have some doubts about that because I really feel we're really short on infrastructure. I'd love to walk around with any committee that you can come up with, walk down Banker Road, which was just repaved. There are 4 houses now, since the road was been repaved, that their garage door is 2 to 3 inches below road grade in less than 50 feet. I've been down some of the streets just short of here. They have a water issue problem. Some of them have brought dirt in, several tractor trailer loads to stop the water from coming off the road onto their property. I see at least 25 houses I'd like to walk around Niskayuna with anybody that wants to walk with me and show you that the roads are not done right. You have no drainage on your road. You're taking all the roads above grade and dumping the water on people's property and then causing them to buy sub pumps, raising their road grade, and all kinds of issues that are not being taken care of. I'll leave you with that thought. And I also see what's happening to some of the people here. I didn't report it. I'm getting very tired of what goes on in Niskayuna. Less than 2 weeks ago, I had 4 motorcycles come down Hillside Avenue, which is marked at 30 miles an hour, at least 65 miles an hour, and doing wheelies down the street. I'm just beyond being fed up. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Hi, my name is Susan Posinelli, 9 Oakmont Street here in Niskayuna. And it is a privilege to be standing here right now because I came up here to thank Rosemary Perez Jakewith for her service to the town. And I just want to say how lucky we are. We had the generosity of your heart, your dedication to this town, and the example of your leadership. And it's meant the world. You have a personal mantra, and it's about how important it is to match words to actions. And for all of these years and in each of your leadership positions, you've really shown us how that's done, how you say the words and you act and you make those words into a reality and you lift people up. And you lift voices. And you mentioned briefly, as you spoke, some of the young people who've you been able to be a confidant to, be a mentor to, be an inspiration to, frankly. And I think as you reflect on your time here, that I would really say, think of all those young people, the people who became representatives to the school board, which was something you were very involved with. The young people who became activists in our community, who brought people together at town hall to discuss issues that were important to them. You helped their voices, you helped them find their voices, you helped them dedicate themselves to their message. And I just think that's a legacy that you should really take pride in and reflect on. The other things you've done here in town hall, again, making those activities available to kids last year, all the time and the energy, the dedication you put into that, these are thankless jobs. Maybe you make $10,000, $12,000 for the privilege of serving us. And you gave us every cent worth. Worked so hard, worked with such dedication, made everyone's problem your problem, which is so unusual. And I would always have people say to me, I called Rosemarie because this was my problem and she listened. Doesn't mean you always solve the problem, although you've got a pretty good record of that. But you always listened. You were always respectful. You always gave people your time, your energy, your heart. And that means a lot to me. And I think that means a lot to a lot of people in this town. And I hope that you're right. I hope that the person who comes after you does live by your example and isn't afraid to be that voice asking why and how and what comes next, because your perspective has been so important. And I hope that the next person can emulate it, can walk in your shoes and can give us the benefit of independence and a strong mind and a strong heart and a strong ethical foundation. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Linda Rizzo, 2229 Fairlawn Parkway. I'd like to echo what the previous speakers have addressed, especially with regard to the police department, but that's not really the reason I'm up here. I also would wish you well, Rosemarie. I know we always didn't agree on some issues, but actually, you have accomplished a great deal in the short time you've been on this board. I wish that we had seen that from the leadership of the board. The supervisor had accomplished what you did in that short time. And also the fact that at the last budget, you voted no on the use of the fund balance, which I had gotten up a month before urging everyone to vote no, because it only leads to deficits, higher taxes, maybe overriding the tax cap. So I do wish you well and Godspeed. I'm up here just to clarify one thing, and it had to do with my statement at the last meeting. I'm not rescinding it. My statement was at that time, and I stated it to our supervisor, that I felt that if she wanted to go, she should step down. It had nothing to do with politics. It had nothing to do with the Democratic Committee. The Democratic Committee doesn't tell me what to say, when to say it, or how to say it. I've published articles in journals. I have a doctorate. I wrote a 250-page research dissertation. I've had to defend it. I've had to take oral exams. I certainly don't need someone to write my speeches or tell me what to say. So I want to clear up this misnomer. My issue has to do simply with this, and I will be brief. The first 2 years of the administration, there was gridlock, you had claimed. And I supported you in saying, no, there shouldn't be gridlock. You need to bring in a consultant. You need to bring in someone, if you feel there's gridlock, to bring this board together. You said, great idea. Nothing happened. During those first 2 years, we didn't have any policies. Really, I can't think of any major policies. As I said, I've heard more from Rosemarie Jackwith and what she did since she's been on, but I really can't say exactly what policies were developed for the good of the taxpayers from the leadership at the top. I consider that a failure in leadership. Then the first budget you inherited from Supervisor Landry was balanced, had a healthy fund balance. He never in 10 years used the fund balance to balance the budget. And in fact, Luke Smith, who preceded him, never did that. And Luke was a Democrat also. Now, when I moved to Niskayuna, Luke Smith was the supervisor. I was a Republican. Luke Smith stated he was not going to serve out he wasn't going to run again. That was the end of his term. I think he'd been here 10 years. Yeah, because I had been here 10 years. And I never got up and said, I think you should go. I was a Republican. He was a Democrat. Why? He did a fairly good job. Why would I want him to go? He was accessible. He met with people. He knew how to budget. Then Joe took over, the same thing. He did a great budget. So the first year you had to do the budget, we have a deficit. We have over expenditures and revenues underestimated. I couldn't understand it. I was shocked. The second time, and that's the time I'm referencing Rosemary Jackwit's vote, I got up and said, please do not use the fund balance again. In case it comes up, what happened? The fund balance had to be used again. More deficit. You see, once you start using the fund balance, you can't just stop using it, because to balance the budget, you have to make up for that gap. And if anyone says that's not true, then they shouldn't be let near a budget. So now, are we going to have to use the fund balance again? I have a concern. That means more deficit. And the excuse that the preliminary budget was worse than the current budget is not a legitimate excuse. There are 4 members on this board. And the 4 members, and I don't even know if you started working on the budget. I don't even know where the status of the budget is. I don't even know if the board members know. But you have 4 board members. They should say you don't use the fund balance. They should tell the comptroller that. Find out what you have to do to balance the budget without filling the gaps with the fund balance. And if you have to buy 10 police cars, you buy them with the fund balance. You don't put that in the budget. So it doesn't affect the budget, because that's a one-time payment. It's not a recurring expense. That's what causes deficits. So that was another reason that I made that statement. It was a question of leadership failure. And then we have the personnel issues. We had Sebesta that I egregiously disagreed with the way that man was treated. It was an investigation. Wait till the results come out. You don't go on TV and give an interview and say, I'm denying him his vacation pay, and then have to give it to him. I mean, that's preposterous. Then we have the police chief, another drama. That became a fiasco. That shouldn't have been a fiasco. Then we have Fran Wall. Now, I don't know Sebesta that well. I'm not a friend of his, nor was I a friend of McManus. But I still, did not agree with the way they were treated. But now we have Fran Wall. Fran Wall was a hallway down from your office. And in the paper, you said you were shocked by the letter. How could a supervisor be shocked by a letter from her police chief? That was mind-boggling. That you would not know this woman was that upset and your supervisor. Now, if the other board members didn't realize it, I'm not going to fault any of them, because it's up to you as supervisor to have told them that she was upset and on the verge of resigning. The woman, whether you liked her or not, had 31 years, and the people that spoke are correct in this town. I knew Fran Wall. In fact, she's the only personnel matter that I can say I personally knew the person. I was shocked. And then you impugned her motives by saying she was doing this to cover up a workplace violence report. So we have now another drama coming up in Niskayuna, workplace violence. So you impugn my motives. Now you're impugning her motives without any shred of proof that that's the reason why it's being done. Now, it seems that we have more drama in the town of Niskayuna in the last 3 years than we have in that sitcom Peyton Place. I mean, every time you turn around, there's a scandal, there's an employee in the paper, there's investigations. Now we have our deputy police chief, who's now going to be interim. When you were talking about the exam in the paper, the 3 people that were supposed to take the exam, you made mention that Stevens was under investigation. Why even bring it up? It can't be that egregious, or he wouldn't be the interim police chief. So you see, It's the handling of these personnel matters that I find egregious. And I've dealt in personnel management. I mean, I've been over 350 people. And it's mind-boggling. So those were the reasons I said what I said. It had nothing to do with the Democratic Committee. Nothing at all. And then now, in the paper, I read that you don't have much confidence in the Ethics Committee. Well, I'm sorry. People don't live in a bubble in this town. People know people. I mean, are you only going to put people on committees that live in a bubble? I mean, you can know someone and still make an honest decision regarding an action. And as far as that goes, I don't want to get into the weeds of that drama that we have now going on. But you're in charge of the agenda. When the agenda comes out, the supervisors in the past would highlight to board members, this is on there, look at this, be careful. Your wife's on here, your daughter's on here, your sister's on here, and they automatically see it and they abstain. I don't think there was anything of malfeasance there. People make mistakes. It wasn't the necessary vote to get that resolution passed. If it wasn't for her vote, Mrs. McGraw, then it wouldn't have passed. That would have been a conflict of interest. But now you bring up the Ethics Committee and you're not quite happy with them. You know, these people aren't getting paid. They're serving on a committee. So those are the reasons why I said what I said. All right, I know you're not going to step down. I know, and I would wish you well if you did and went to Syracuse. I'm concerned about the budget. I'm concerned when I take my checkbook out and I have to write a check to pay taxes. That's what I'm concerned about. Those are the issues that I'm concerned about. And that's why I said what I said. Because, first of all, I have said this at this meeting. I'm a pro-life person. The Democratic Committee or the Democrats have never called me up and said, oh, no, Linda, you can't be pro-life. We're not. No. I have never been told what to say, when to say it, or how to say it. But as I said, Luke Smith was our supervisor. I was a Republican. I thought he did a good job. And I really don't care if the person has an R after their name, a D, a C, or whatever. If they're doing a good job, I believe they should get credit. Because when you go after someone because of a political designation, even if they're doing a good job, you're a political hack. That's what political hacks do. And therefore, I wanted to explain why I said, but please don't impugn motives of people. I mean, and least of all, to do that to, I can come here and tell you what I think of you. But Fran Wall, you're impugning her motives in the paper? That she's doing this to deflect on some workplace violence, a 31-year employee? And I certainly hope you give more, let me put cooperation with Stevens now, who's going to be the police chief. And yes, I agree with these people. We need to support our police department. I'm sorry. And with the speeding, yes, people are disgusted. You should see how they speed on a Lexus in Orchard. You should see how they go down. I was talking to a man who had a baby in a carriage, a person I know. I had my dog Byron with me. A car went speeding. We both had to jump aside. This shouldn't be happening. But I feel bad for Fran Wall to have done that, to impugn her motives. Rather than just saying you're sorry, you call her incendiary. Sorry, that's why I said what I said. It was not the Democratic Committee that did it. It was Linda Rizzo. Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak.
Leslie Gold, 1919 Pawtucket Avenue. At the last privilege of the floor, I raised the issue of the current year budget because I was extremely unhappy with the budget as it was passed on November 20th, the last possible day for it to be approved. And I will note that I had attended all the budget workshops, as I always do, that the other members of the board had indicated that they did not support rating the fund balances, nor do they support a huge increase during the pandemic when a lot of people were suffering a lot of economic distress. And on November 20th, the choice was between the original budget that you, Madam Supervisor, presented or the adjusted one, which looked like a budget exercise with a 4% cut across the board, with the funds to be cut not yet identified. And at that time, you optimistically said probably in January that would all be taken care of. It wasn't. But after the last privilege of the floor, I talked briefly with our new controller, and she suggested I listen to that night's finance meeting, which I did not listen to because, gee, I wanted to come here in person for 7. Finance meeting was at 6:30. I took her up on the suggestion. I was very pleased that I did, because she noted that thanks to the hard work of the department heads, we now had a balanced budget, finally, in June. That never should have happened. It should have been balanced back on November 20th when it was adopted. And in fact, it should have been adopted sooner than the last day possible. You kind of set it up so the board either had to go with your original budget or go with this make do. And I know there were some extenuating circumstances, but I'm sorry, but this still wasn't proper. So one of the good things that came out of listening to that meeting was not only was I assured that we finally have a balanced budget, but that also after all these years, one of the savings not only cuts some money from the police department budget, but finally provides our female officers with uniforms that are made for women. Hello, that should have happened decades ago. I think it was in the late 70s when Kathy Oliver was appointed as our first patrol woman. That we've gone all these years is just appalling. There should have been uniforms tailored for the women all along. So I'm glad that's finally resolved. I was also very encouraged by our controller that she said she's going to start the budget process in July, not wait till the end of summer, early fall. I think that's a great idea. In fact, I was going to suggest it. I would also like to see the budget adopted way earlier than the last day possible. There was a time in this unit when we were adopting the budget before Election Day. I think that's a worthy goal. May not always be possible, but I still think it's a great goal. No matter who's up for election, the voters know what the budget looks like, who took what part, et cetera. And aside from all of that, I do want to thank Chief Wall for her many years of service, both in the military and to the town and our police department. I wish her the very best. I don't know what else is going on. I'm not privy to all of that. I know you couldn't very well be adding a bunch of staff when we didn't have a balanced budget. I don't know what the recommendations are based on. I haven't read all of that. Going back to 85, there's a difference between now and then in that we no longer have the dispatchers on the town payroll. And when I figured it out, to cover all the shifts 24/7, you need 4.2 people, and actually you need 5 because there's time off, there's vacations, there's personal leave and whatnot. So you need at least 5 people to cover any one position 24/7. So those people are no longer on our payroll. The positions are now at the UCC. And one of the things I've wondered about is, how is that working now? There was going to be a follow-up report, and I'm sorry I've missed it. I know I'm not hearing as many complaints as I did. I know the one time I had to call them, we got a response very quickly, and I'm very grateful for that. But there was still concern whether that was working better than when we had our own dispatchers. So I'd appreciate at some point a follow-up on that. And I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Privilege of the floor is still open if anyone else would like to speak. And last call on privilege of the floor, still open. If you would like to speak, you can do so now. Okay, seeing no one left willing to speak, I'm going to close privilege of the floor. We're going to move on to committee reports. We're going to begin with Councilwoman Jakewith.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. The Highway Parks and Recreation Committee report for today includes under community programs. The department is in full swing and registration for July camps is still open with some limited spots. Looks like we're going to open up some spots for pre-K. Registration has been better than expected. Yoga at Town Hall, the instructor Susan Manchester is running an outdoor yoga program that I've previously reported on. It's running Tuesdays, June 8th through August 17th from 6 to 7. The fee is $8. It's a drop-in, and additional information about this program is on the website. We are currently working on a schedule for outdoor movie nights, which will start in July. Once confirmed, the schedule and other details will be posted and sent out via townwide email. Senior Center news. First quarterly newsletter post-pandemic went out and was met with good response. Mahjong teaching night was very popular with 18 new players. Book club is ready to begin in July. The first book is entitled Cutting for Stone. And in keeping with usual traditions, Senior Center will be closed the first week of July. Also, water aerobics classes are forming in July and more details will follow. Highway crews have been prepping the first round of roads to be paved over the next few weeks, weather permitting. Crews have also been working on resident request lists, including tree removal, trimming, and patching. The sweeper is finished and going through the town for the first time, and shoulder mowing is also occurring throughout town. Yard waste removal continues regularly. Parks crews are moving out of are mowing our many green spaces and engaged in improvements throughout our many parks and town boulevards. The Parks crews extend their thanks to Lori Peretti for facilitating the Girl Scout troop who planted flowers in our town green at Town Hall. They did a beautiful job, and we're thankful for their community service. I personally would like to thank all of the town of Niskuna staff that I've had the pleasure to get to know and work with. You all care so much about our town, and it is evident in the in the excellent job you do every day, working very hard. You are the unsung heroes, and it's been an honor to support your labors on behalf of Niskuna residents. The next Highway Parks and Recreation Committee meeting is scheduled for July 7th at 8:15 a.m. Madam Supervisor, just given your involvement and presence at every Highway Parks and Recreation Committee meeting during my tenure, do you think it'd be possible for you to take charge as chair to facilitate an optimal transition?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
You're
And
very
that's it for
welcome.
my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to Councilman Delarada.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor, and thank you, Councilwoman Jakewith. Again, I thank you for your service. These positions are not easy. They are time-consuming, and they can be emotional because we want to make everybody happy, but of course, that's impossible. So again, I do want to thank Councilwoman Perez Jakewith for her dedicated service. Regarding the Economic Development Committee report, the building department is very active post-COVID. They are still receiving a much higher than normal amount of building permits to process. We do appreciate the public's patience with that. I have gotten many calls about permits for fences and sheds and pools and the like, and we do know that things are a little bit slower than normal, and that really is just due to sheer volume at this point. The town hall is open. The building department is fully staffed here at the town hall, so we will get those permits processed as quickly as possible. Another very important project, Rivers Ledge, is progressing very quickly. All 16 buildings are in the process of being built, and several have actually begun siding and interior finishes. The park along the river, Aqueduct Park, is also shaping up. We do want to thank everybody for their patience with the park closure, but we should have that park back up and fully running in late July, if at all possible. We are still trying to fill our committee vacancies, so for anybody out there that would like to participate more in the town and the town policies, we have vacancies on at least 2 or 3 committee meetings, so please check our website, and all are certainly needed. Our next meeting will be the first Friday of July, and all are welcome. I believe we are going to be doing something hybrid. I don't know if it'll be in person or virtual on the next meeting, but we are going back to in person as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to Councilwoman McGraw.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. The water crews are out around town making repairs to roads and yards and things that may have been damaged over the winter. And they've been very busy doing that. They're also in the process of inspecting and repairing manholes, valves, hydrants, all items that match up with the paving list, the roads that the highways are going to pave over this summer. The water and sewer crews are out there prepping for them. We're awarding 2 contracts tonight that are very important for the future of our town. One is to rehab about a 100-year-old sewer line in the country club area. Another is to modernize and upgrade our water plant. I think everybody saw the splash pad opened on June 5th. It's been very busy so far because the pool only opened this past weekend. While we're thrilled the pool is open, we are in desperate need of certified lifeguards. We are continuing to look for those. We are attempting to have another class so we can get people trained. I think many of you have read the media reports so far that there's a nationwide shortage of certified lifeguards because the American Red Cross had not been teaching the course for more than a year. So we are feeling the pressure of that in the attempts to make sure that the staffing level at the pool is where it needs to be. The next meeting of the Water and Sewer Committee is on the 8th of July at 8:30 a.m. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
We're now going to move on to Councilman McPartlin.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. I want to begin my report by thanking Chief Fran Wall. She served this town and this department for over 30 years in a very professional manner and was a well-respected police officer in this area. Just briefly, I'm going to speak about some things that the people spoke at, privilege of the floor. This board was very supportive of Chief Wall, Niskayuna being one of the first towns to have a female police chief. And I won't speak about employee issues with anybody that is employed by this town. And it's not right for any of us board members to speak about employee issues that we may be having here in the town. And despite what people want to come up and say, that's just the way it is. So we're going to continue to be professional as a board. We're going to continue to serve the residents of the town to the best of our abilities. And that's what we're doing here. So again, we want to definitely thank Chief Wall for her very professional service to our town. We have a very professional and capable police force, and this town is doing its best, and this board is doing its best to support them. The Police and Public Safety meeting was June 1st. Operationally, we are continuing our work on Lexipol policies. It's slightly down due to ongoing training that we're doing during work days. We are continuing to, work on that and work on the policies with the Lexipol. Our second body cam demos has been finished. As you know, out of the police and safety reform initiatives, body cams was a big issue, so we are demoing different body cams and working on trying to find one that may work for the town. We're still continuing to look for grants for the expense of equipping our officers with that equipment. Regarding patrol and fleet and equipment, our 2 cars are in. We probably won't see them on the road probably until August. The deputy chief or acting chief now is working on quotes for upfitting of those vehicles. And yes, we are doing our first tactical uniform change, which is going to save our department approximately $3,000. I want to thank Mike Stevens for his work on this. And yes, Leslie, these new uniforms do have separate uniforms for men and women officers. So that's a big improvement. Building-wise, our locking system is done, and the chief's computer will have a connection to the entire town hall building lock system. Training-wise, always training. Firearms training was completed in the spring. We're working on more active shooter training. This is to give our officers a better sense of what might take place in the real world situation that we hope never happens for training and active shooter training. There'll be an active shooter countywide training here in Niskayuna in October, and we continue to work with the school district. They're going to be supplying some facilities for that particular training. It'll be countywide, and we will be sending 4 instructors to that particular training. We also are sending 2 officers to Bike Patrol Week. We're going to have some Bike Patrol officers in the town as weather gets better and our staffing improves. Citizen issues, as always, is important. The supervisor had received a complaint about some speeding issues, on Central and Taurus. We will continue to patrol that area to hopefully alleviate that issue. We got an email from some residents in the Baker Woods neighborhood that were supportive of the people that were playing volleyball in that neighborhood. Leslie, as I shared with you at our last meeting, Leslie Gold asked about some accident reports for the circle down at the bridge, Balltown Road and the bridge. And there has been an increase in accidents in that since the roundabout was created there. I'm not certain what we can do about that other than try to educate people on how to use roundabouts to try to alleviate accidents. Sergeant Twitty and our chief have met with the Niska Committee regarding the August 21st date for Niska Day. Originally, the committee was asking to have 3 different parades, and we're working with them to stagger those and or get it down to 2 parades so that we can ensure the safety of our residents. I don't know that they realized the number of blockades that need to be put out and the officer staffing it takes in order to have a safe parade. So we continue to work on that with the Niska Day Committee. The fire department asked me to report for District 1 residents. They got a grant for some smoke detectors. Usually this happens sort of with seniors and other people that maybe have some economical difficulty. The fire department got a grant for smoke detectors. If residents might require or need them, they can contact Fire District 1. And the next meeting will be July 6th at 8 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our committee reports. I'm going to move on to the supervisor's report. I have 2 very brief updates before we move into our resolutions. So as many of you already know, the state's COVID-19 restrictions were lifted last week. We are currently in the process of redeveloping both our public-facing and our internal safety protocols to reflect this change while also still ensuring safety for everyone. The revised guidance regarding contact tracing, self-attestations, and temperature checks is forthcoming. Regardless of any forthcoming guidance, just please remember that unvaccinated individuals are still responsible for continuing to wear a mask per the federal CDC guidance. In the next updates regarding ARPA funds, so that's the American Rescue Plan Act funds, the town of Niskayuna is designated a non-entitlement unit. That means that we will receive our coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds through New York State on behalf of the U.S. Treasury. Per the Department of Treasury, local governments will receive funds in 2 50% payments. So the second payment will be occurring 12 months after the first payment. In addition, the total amount of ARPA coronavirus local fiscal recovery funds received by any NEU cannot exceed 75% of an NEU's annual total operating budget. So that being said, we are set to request our funding ahead of the July 9th deadline. So we look forward to getting that funding as soon as possible. And again, it'll be in 2 installments. We'll get our first installment this year, next installment approximately 12 months after that. So that concludes my supervisor's report. We're going to move on to our resolutions. We're going to begin with Resolution 2021-136, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into a licensing agreement with Vistara Soccer.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-137, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution approving the 2020 fall residential commercial utility bill reconciliation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-138, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into various fence and shed easements.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-139, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution amending Resolution 2021-73.
I think we were on the previous one, correct?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's right.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of a freight line for use by the town's highway department.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-140, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution amending Resolution Number 2021-73.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-141, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing certain budgetary modifications.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-142, sponsored by Councilwoman Jakewith. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the purchase of a John Deere backhoe.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next, we have the introduction of local law number 4 of 2021. That local law is included in the packet. We're going to move on to the next resolution, which pertains to the local law. That's Resolution 2021-143, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin and Councilwoman McGraw.
A resolution calling for a public hearing on local law regarding off-road vehicles.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I will second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-144, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing license agreement with Starfish Swim Club.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
I would just like to say, we were working on our committee about establishing, facilities use, a facilities use handbook and rates, and I think that continues to be important. I think it's wonderful. Obviously, we want to have our kids, we work very hard to have our kids on the pitch, on the courts, in the pool. But I would just encourage my fellow town board members to continue to work towards published rates so that everyone knows what they are and they're fair and equitable for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
I'm going to abstain from this one. My daughter was on this swim team for many years. I just for that reason, I have no other connection to it. I'm going to abstain.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes. 1
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-145, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution awarding a contract for a design of water treatment plant upgrades.
I think we skipped. Skip one.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Doing that. A resolution amending Resolution 2021-109.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'm going to propose an amendment to this again.
Okay.
It is missing one person, James Soule, who will be serving as a lifeguard at $9 an hour.
Okay.
That's the only other change I have. Am I missing something?
Okay, so was that your motion to amend?
Please.
Okay. Do I have a second on the motion to amend?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend? Okay, seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the amendment?
So who seconded that?
Bill.
Councilman McPartlin.
Thank you. Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
5 ayes on the amendment, so the amendment passes. And on the motion as amended, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Abstain.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
4 ayes.
And the motion as amended passes. Next resolution, 2021-146, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution awarding a contract for design of a water treatment plant upgrades.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-147, sponsored by Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing a contract renewal for the town's municipal accounting software.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-148, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing for a sewer district extension on Pierce Road.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-149, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw, Councilwoman Jakewith, and Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to authorize the submittal of a grant application for town pool and the senior center facilities.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-150, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the submittal of a grant application to Niskiuna Community Foundation.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-151, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing on a special use permit for telecommunication antenna array located at 1 Research Circle.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-152, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution authorizing the sale of town-owned lands on Fillmore Avenue.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-153, sponsored by Councilman Delarada. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing on a special use permit for a proposed mixed-use building located at 2147 Eastern Parkway.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-154, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution awarding a contract for sewer lining.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-155, sponsored by Councilman McPartlin. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution appointing a part-time clerk in the Niskiuna Police Department.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-156, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing for a water district extension at Kelts Farm.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-157, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing for a sewer district extension at Kelts Farm.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-158, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution calling for a public hearing for a drainage district extension at Kelts Farm.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes,
5 ayes.
and this resolution passes. Next resolution, 2021-159, sponsored by Councilman Delarada and Supervisor Syed. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to hire student workers.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Now for our ceremonial resolutions, we have 2021-160, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to recognize the Niskuna class of 2021 senior officers.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Next, we have Resolution 2021-161, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to recognize the Niskuna Mohawk Composite Mountain Bike Team for winning the NICA New York State Championship.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. Last, we have Resolution 2021-162, sponsored by Councilwoman McGraw. Will the clerk please read?
A resolution to recognize Jordan Zenner and Heather Schmidt of their accomplishments in the U.S. Rowing Youth Nationals.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman Delarada.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jakewith.
Yes.
Councilwoman McGraw.
Aye.
Councilman McPartlin.
Aye.
Supervisor Syed.
Yes.
5 ayes.
And this resolution passes. So without any further motions for the evening, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Do I have a second on that motion? I will-
Second.
Thank you. Councilwoman Jakewith will second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now adjourned for the evening. Everybody have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.